GCSE English Lesson 10. Okay. So, excuse me. So in today's lesson, here are the aims for what we're going to do today. Okay, so its main aim is to give you an overview of the Paper 2 reading exam. So last few lessons we've been looking at the writing part of Paper 2. So today we're going to look at the reading, start looking at the reading section. I'm going to focus on the ability to quickly extract specific information from a text, and then going to improve your ability to understand how to recognise a writer's technique in a non-fiction text. Okay, so as usual, start with word of the week. Okay, today the word is involuntary. So we've got a sample sentence here. She gave an involuntary shudder as he walked by. So just pause the video for 30 seconds, see if you can work out what the word involuntary means in this sentence. Okay, so involuntary, here's the definition: something that is done without will or conscious control. So it's the idea that you get like a physical reaction to something that you can't control. Okay, so it's your body reacting before your mind thinks about it. So in the example sentence here, she gave an involuntary shudder. So obviously something about the man's appearance or the man's kind of emotions made her kind of shudder or get scared about something. Okay, so as I said, so we're going to focus today on Paper 2 reading. So remember, Paper 2 is 2 hours in total, split equally between the writing and the reading parts. So we've got about an hour for the reading, and there's also, with all these components, there's 40 marks available. So for each separate component, reading, writing, Paper 1, Paper 2, it's 40 marks available. So there are 6 questions here, and crucially for the Paper 2 reading, there are 2 texts. Okay, so Paper 1 reading, you only have 1 text. Paper 2, you have 2 different texts. However, the texts are generally shorter than the Paper 1 reader, so in total, the number of words you have to read, although it's slightly more, it's not too much. Also, the text generally, because they're a bit shorter, maybe a little bit more accessible as well. And also, key to know is a modern text and a 19th century text. Okay, so as part of the exam, being able to kind of look at information from 2 different time periods and compare it. And remember, obviously, Paper 2 is non-fiction, so the texts are going to be taken from mostly from newspapers, but there might be some magazine articles, sometimes there's a diary extract, that type of thing. Okay, so 6 questions. I'll very quickly talk through it. So questions 1, retrieval question, 3 marks available, very straightforward. That's what we're going to be looking at today. Just find specific information relating to the text. Question 2, 10 marks available. Again, this is looking at writer's technique, so the how question. Okay, so again, this question, again, as we'll look at it, is very similar to the how questions in Paper 1. So it's the same idea, same approach you would take. Question 3, again, 3 marks, retrieval, finding specific information. Question 4, 10 marks. Again, it's a technique, the how question. Okay, also worth remembering, so questions 1 and 2 are about the modern text. Questions 3 and 4 are about the 19th century text. Questions 5 and 6 are about both texts. So question 5 is kind of retrieval comparison, getting information from 2 texts based on a specific question. Question 6 is the 10-mark question. That's a comparison of information compared in both texts. Okay, so it's a fairly straightforward structure to the exam, and very logical, like I said. So questions 1 and 2, new text. Questions 3 and 4, old text. Question 5 and 6, both texts. And again, as you see the pattern, so retrieval, technique, retrieval, not technique as such, but comparison. Okay, so it's, although there's 6 questions, 2 texts, it's quite a straightforward exam in many ways. Okay, so what we're going to look at first of all is the retrieval question. Okay, so 10 marks in total in this paper available for the straightforward retrieval questions. Okay, so 3 marks each for modern and 19th century, 4 marks for both texts. So if you read the question, understand it, read the text carefully to find the answers, you can easily get 10 marks here. I would say certainly questions 1 and 2, very straightforward. It's just very straightforward questions, finding specific information. And question 5, a little bit trickier, but as long as you're careful, no reason why you can't get 3-4 marks here. Okay, so remember, as I said before, you need to be aiming for half marks overall in the exam. Okay, if you can get half marks, 50%, then you'll easily get your grade 4 or even higher. Okay, so it's really important that you maximise your marks here, get as many marks as possible. Okay, so here's just an example of some typical past paper questions sorts of questions you would find. So, how many soldiers did she treat? How long has he been working at the market? What does his grandson sell at the market? Where were the miners taken after being rescued? So you can see the questions are always things like what, how long, how many, where, that type of thing. So it's just really about understanding the specific information you're looking for. Okay. Sometimes you need to be careful because there might be like 2 or 3 possible answers. Okay, so don't always just put down the first answer that you come across. Make sure you read through the whole text. But really, they're very straightforward questions. As long as you read the text carefully, there's no reason why you can't get these all right. Okay. So, what we're going to do first of all is very quickly look at the writer's technique. Okay, so go over this one and then we'll look at an example text. Okay, so as I said at the start of the video, it's a very similar approach here to the how questions in paper 1. So how does the writer create a certain impression? How does he make it exciting? How does he present the character? Not character, how does he present the situation? That sort of thing. So 10-mark question. So in the same way as paper 1, minimum of 6 quotation and explanations needed. So the more quotations, relevant quotations you find and give a simple explanation for, the more marks you can get. So it's not as straightforward as quotation equals mark, but it's not too far off. Generally, you get 5 quotations, 5 relevant comments, you're going to be getting probably 5 marks. Okay. So how to approach this question? So you need to identify the theme of the question. So basically, what technique, what aspect of the text of the writer's ideas do they want you to identify to find evidence for? Okay, so again, like I said, read through the text, find those quotations support the theme. So at least 6 for a 10-mark question. Make a sensible comment about each quotation to show how it links to the theme of the question, how it explains that idea. Okay, how it links back to what the writer is attempting to do, depending on what the question is asking you. So what we're going to do is then do a sample question. Okay, so first of all, if you go to the other part of your folder, okay, we'll find the text here. Okay, so you've got question paper and you've got the texts here. It says paper 2 reading. Okay, so we're just going to look at questions 1 and 2 in this lesson. Next lesson we'll look at the rest of the text, so how to deal with a 19th century text and how to do a comparison. Okay, so again, so although this was written by myself, it follows the same structure as the exam papers. Okay, so also say read the first title, article title, this one is Diary of a Dad with Coronavirus, okay, and answer the following questions. So as we said about the retrieval questions, very straightforward. How many people? What was the highest temperature? Which drug did he take to help with his coughing? Okay, so it's a very straightforward question. Okay, and if you look at the texts, okay, so to be honest, extract A was actually quite long. I did try and shorten it, but this is as short as I could get it. So it is longer than it would be in the exam, but obviously it's good practice. If you can do it with a long text, you'll be fine to do with a shorter text. So all I want you to do, okay, is pause the video now. Okay, think about what specifically you're being asked for. See if you can answer questions 1A, B, and C. Okay, so pause the text, read through this text here. Then when you're finished, come back, start it, and we'll go over the answers. Okay. So, how many people caught COVID? What was the highest temperature you recorded? Which drugs do you take to help with this coughing? So, as I said, so obviously question 1, you're looking for a number. Same with question 2. Question 3, you're looking for the name of a drug. Okay, so very quickly, here are the answers. So question 1, it's 17. Highest temperature recorded, 38.2. So if you think your normal temperature is about 36.5, I think it should be. It's pretty high for your fever. And the last one, you took Nurofen. So hopefully you found all those answers there. Pretty straightforward, like I said. 3 easy marks. Okay, so we've done that one. So, question 2 is the more important how question. Obviously, it's worth 10 marks, so you need to spend enough time for doing this one. Yes, so one thing I forgot to say for question 1, because it's only 3 marks, if you can't find the answer within a minute for one of those questions, just stop and give up. There's no point spending lots of time searching through a text just for 1 mark. Okay, so anyway, back to question 2. So, question is, how does it like to show us, the reader, how serious getting COVID-19 was? 10 marks. So, step 1, what is the theme of the question? So, fairly straightforward. It's about the how does the writer shows the seriousness of getting COVID-19. Okay, so what I want you to do is take a bit more time for this one. Read the text through again, and I want you to highlight parts of the text which show us how it was a serious matter. So what you're looking for are example quotations which you could use to demonstrate that the disease COVID-19 was very serious for the writer of this piece. Okay, so stop the text. Stop the video now. Okay, go through the text. Okay, and find as many different quotations, examples as you can of examples of how this was a serious matter for the writer. Okay, have you done that? Good. So, let's go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so which of these should you have? So here I've picked out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 example quotations. There are actually many more I could have chosen. There's so many different examples there. You know, whatever question is, there will always be more than 10 possible quotations you could choose. Okay, so remember you get the exam paper's marked positively, so you get marks for every right thing you put down. You don't get marks deducted for mistakes. Excuse me. Okay, so once I've got here, so clinical advisor called me back around an hour and a half later, time to self-isolate. At around 3:30, they arrived in an unmarked car in hazmat suits. Found out I was the 17th person to contract the virus on this day. I was shivering and shaking like a snowman. By 8 p.m, my temperature was around 38.2. I received a call from a consultant at St George's Hospital in London. At 6:30 p.m, I decided to call 999 for an ambulance because I couldn't catch my breath. Someone from NHS 111 called to do a welfare check because I'm a diabetic. 2 o'clock, they turned up in an ambulance in full hazmats, decided to take me to St Helier Hospital to be checked over. It's an involuntary cough, that word from the start, as you're on all fours retching. I did an interview with Hugh Pym from the BBC in the morning, and I was feeling okay. Okay, so first thing, obviously, the most important thing for these questions is finding the correct quotation, the most relevant quotation. And then obviously what you need to do next is being able to make relevant comments or about an explanation of each quotation and why it shows the seriousness of the matter. If you just did a bullet point of quotations, you wouldn't get very many marks. Okay, the exam board are expecting a complete answer. Okay, so here we've got sample parts. I've taken the second quotation there. At 3:30, they arrived in an unmarked car and hazmat suits. I've broken it down and showed how you can explain different parts of this question. So I start with a kind of introduction, linking it to the question. So one way in which the writer makes it seem serious is when he says, at around 3:30 p.m, they arrived in an unmarked car in hazmat suits. Okay, so I picked out my quotation, and then what I've done here is picked out within that quotation some specific ideas. So the use of unmarked cars implies that there was some sort of secrecy around his disease. In addition, the reference to hazmat suits brings up images of war zones, natural disasters, chemical warfare, which creates a chilling vision to the reader, maybe I could say, and which reinforces how serious this was. Okay, so like I said, so I start with a kind of linking sentence, introductory, pick out my quotation, and then here, what you can do sometimes is break down a longer quotation if there are two parts that you want to talk about. So I picked out unmarked cars, it implies some sort of secrecy, which reinforces the seriousness of it, and then hazmat suits, like I said, it has that ideas of connotation. Okay, so idea of chemical warfare, war zones, etc., which kind of creates this image of seriousness. So as you can see, for both of these quotations, what I've really done is talked about what that image connotes to me, what it suggests to me, what it implies, which shows how serious a matter the disease was. Okay, so it's really as straightforward as that. Pick your quotation, what does it imply, how does it link to the question, and then go on to the next one, and the next one, and so on. Okay, so as you can see, I've used quotations here, and they're just 2 words long. Unmarked cars, hazmat suits, yeah. And then one sentence which talks about the connotations of that phrase. So for example, another thing you could do, so for example, just as a practice, look at the third quotation. I found out I was the 17th person to contract the virus on this day. Okay, so just pause the video, and I want you to see, if you were writing that in an exam answer, what comment could you make to show that this links to the exam question? So remember, the exam question was, how does the writer show us, the reader, how serious getting COVID-19 was? And here, I want you to use this quotation here, okay, and we'll talk through how you could make that relevant. So we're focusing on making a relevant comment. Okay, so pause the video and then we'll come back. Okay, welcome back. So, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take this quotation, sorry, wrong one, and then think how you could write about it. Okay, so again, another way in which the writer says it is serious is in the quotation. And here I just put my quotation I've just copied. Okay, so also always remember to kind of put like inverted commas around it. Okay, then you need to explain it. So the fact that he was the 17th person to catch COVID-19 demonstrates how easily it can spread. That's it, really. Okay, so I could say which shows it's serious, but I think it's kind of implies there. So so I got the quotation. I mean, you could, to be honest, you could say is in the. You could even shorten that. You could even take out that one as in, and to make it even quicker. So remember, you'd only have. He was the 17th person to demonstrate how easy it can spread. So actually, that's an even quicker way of answering it. And you've got the quotation. You don't really need to say much more than that. It's very clear, obviously. Spreads easily, lots of people catch it, it must be a serious disease. Okay, so what I want you to do now is basically complete question 2. So we've gone through the text, we've picked out our quotations, we've shown how to link those ideas together. So what I want you to do now is complete question 2. Okay, so thank you very much for listening and watching, and good luck with that. I'll see you next time.